So we're looking at absolute values and how they can be manipulated when the equation's altered. So here we have one just y is equal to the absolute value of x. So what we're going to do here is we're going to manipulate it to see what happens if we change certain things. So the first thing I'm going to do here is change, and we're going to have the x minus 2. So you can see here what happens when you take minus 2. It actually moves that vertex from 0, 0 to 2, 0. So your x value is 2, your y value is 0. So it moves it along the x-axis in an opposite direction of what you would expect with the sign that's given. Okay, same thing would happen if I say, okay, let's say the absolute value of x plus 2. Notice how it moves in a negative direction. So now our vertex is negative 2, 0. Okay, so that's how we can move a graph of an absolute value along an x-axis. To move it along the y-axis, once again, we'll start off with just the absolute value of x with a vertex of 0, 0. Okay, to move it along the y-axis, we actually would put the value outside. Okay, and let's say we add 2 to that. Notice how it moves up 2 in a positive direction. Now that's kind of what we would expect here. Okay, so we have, I'm just going to leave that as is, but then we're going to put the absolute value of x plus 2 like we just had, so we can have that there. And then let's do the absolute value of x minus 2. Notice how it moves in a negative direction now on the y-axis. So to manipulate the y-axis, we would move it, it moves in the direction that you would expect, but that value outside, that addition or subtraction outside of the absolute value is going to move it along the y-axis. So if I would want to move it along both, let's say I want to move it over 2 and up 2, I would need to do x minus 2 plus 2. You can see how now that graph has an axis of positive 2, 2. Here, if I would want to move this to a negative 2, negative 2, I would need to do in the absolute value x plus 2 minus 2. And that gives me this value here now. Okay. Lastly, let's see how multiplying or dividing an absolute value affects its graph. So let's say here I have once again the absolute value of x. Okay, let's say I take 2 times the absolute value of x. Notice how now it is a more narrow graph. Okay, it is a more narrow graph. Still has the same vertex, but as we move along points, you can see here, instead of this point being 2, 2, now it's 2, 1. So your y value goes into half, so it goes opposite of what you would expect there again. Okay, if we would take this now and say 1/2 times the absolute value of x, see how it widens. Now each y value, or each x value, is double what you double what just the original was. So y is equal to x is 2, 2 here. Here it's 4, 2. Okay, so this would be similar to dividing your absolute value by 2. Okay, so let's say we have 1/2 x minus 2. Notice how it moves over to the right in a positive direction there on the x-axis, and then let's say plus 2. And notice how it moves up. Okay, so that's us manipulating an equation here with an absolute value in it. If you have certainly any questions, certainly feel free to ask me anytime.